Hey guys, tonight we slip back into the shimmering alleys of a place so rich, so impossibly dazzling, that even its shadows smelled like incense. Gilded fountains splash beside temples carved with mathematical precision, and merchant princes argue over cinnamon prices louder than emperors shout in war. But don't get too cozy, because by the end of this story, most of those voices will vanish. The city walls will crumble, and if you were a citizen here, well, you probably wouldn't survive the night. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, where are you listening from? Drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing how far we travel each night. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge through a wide stone avenue, hot sand brushing your ankles. On either side, bronze gates shimmer in the brutal sun. They're etched with beasts no zoologist could classify half lion, half eagle, with eyes that seem to follow you. Welcome to the city once called the heart of the world. Some called it Opus, others claimed it was a later Babylon. Some whispered it was neither, but something even older, even richer, a ghost city that lent its treasures to myths. You hear the rhythmic thump of sandals on granite. A silk-robed boy runs past, laughing, a fig dripping from his hand. Behind him, slaves in silver chains haul a cart full of blue lapis lazuli stone, so precious it had to be imported from Afghanistan. Yeah, that Afghanistan. This place isn't just wealthy, it's wealth. Every temple, every column, every eyebrow-raising party thrown by the high priest's youngest wife radiates opulence. Here, walls are embedded with crushed pearls, not because it's efficient, but because why not even the sewer system? Yes, there is one is lined with polished tiles. When your waist runs downhill in mosaic, you know you've made it. Historians agree this was the apex of something huge, a metropolis possibly tied to the Neo-Assyrian Empire, or maybe something older, pre-Sumerian even. But the records, they're scattered, clay tablets broken mid-sentence, names half erased, like someone didn't want you to remember this place. You turn a corner, and the scent hits you sandalwood, myrrh, and something faintly metallic. The markets are in full swing. Traders yell in a dozen languages, from Phoenician purple dyers to Egyptian papyrus mongers. Everyone's here, arguing over weight, color, freshness. A woman with gold-painted teeth sells roasted locusts, protein-packed and surprisingly crunchy. You try one, not bad, but something's off. You hear it in the way people lower their voices when the royal guards pass. You feel it in the way that incense is just a little too thick, as if someone's trying to cover up the smell of rot. There's a tension, also like air before lightning. And then there's the king. No one agrees on his name. Some say he was called Bel Marduk. Others say it was Naram Tesh. His likeness is everywhere, chiseled into obelisks, stitched into tapestries, even sculpted into the tips of spoons. His beard alone probably had its own priest. He was a god king, which is a nice way of saying he never heard the word no. One mainstream account, recovered from a Babylonian tablet, describes a festival he threw that lasted 30 days, involved imported leopards, and ended in the flooding of an entire district just to make a fake river for swan boats. It was glorious. Also, incredibly dumb. You peek into one of the temples cold. Even in this heat, the floor is obsidian. You can see your reflection dust-streaked, wide-eyed, out of place. The priests are chanting, low and slow. They're holding something up, a copper cube. It hums. Your teeth ache just looking at it. That's when you realize this city doesn't just have secrets. It's built on them. And here's your first quirky tidbit. The people here believed dreams were the final form of reality. Not just prophecies, actual alternate timelines. There were entire buildings filled with sleeping priests who would walk the other realities and return with crop suggestions and battle plans. Historians still argue whether this was metaphorical, medicinal, or just a very official excuse to nap for a living. As you wander farther, something else catches your eye, a tower. No, the tower. People later claimed it was the Tower of Babel, though let's be honest, every tall thing in ancient Mesopotamia got slapped with that label eventually. But this one is real, made of white stone and covered in thin golden plates to catch the sunrise. It hums with an energy that makes the hair on your neck rise. There are ladders leading up into the clouds. You want to climb, you shouldn't, but you find yourself at the base. You touch a brick. It's warm, not sun warm. Skin warm, like someone was just leaning on it. That's when a voice whispers behind you. Not yet. You turn, no one's there. Just a cat, black, bored, and clearly judging your life choices. You laugh nervously, but that tension's back. The golden walls seem just a little less shiny. A sour wind rises. Somewhere in the distance, a drumbeat stutters, then stops. Later, historians will debate the fall of the city for centuries. Was it an economic collapse? A divine punishment? Climate change? Some even propose, brace yourself, interdimensional interference. Yes, really, there's an actual theory that this place slipped into another reality, like a sock behind the dryer of time. But right now, the city still stands. Its people still laugh, trade, pray, and betray. You're in the golden hours, the last stretch of sunlight before the clouds roll in. You hear a scream sharp, fast, and quickly silenced. No one flinches, and you haven't even seen the vaults yet. You stand motionless for a beat, the echo of that scream still vibrating somewhere behind your eyes. But no one reacts. No shopkeeper pauses their haggling. No guards rush toward the sound. In this city, silence is currency, and some debts are best left unpaid. You veer off the main road, drawn now by curiosity, or maybe something deeper, a pull. You duck under a stone archway carved with old gods' ones, whose names have long been scratched out. The passage darkens, the heat easing. You feel cooler stone beneath your feet, and a sudden dampness in the air. You're going underground. It doesn't take long for the light to vanish behind you. But don't worry, someone's lit torches. Their flames flicker against the carved walls. Eyes in bas relief seem to follow your every step. It's not paranoia. It's design. These corridors weren't meant for tourists. They were meant to intimidate intruders, to test the resolve of thieves, to protect something. You reach a circular chamber, ceiling domed like a starless sky. And there it is, the first of the vaults. You've heard whispers about this place above ground. Everyone has. The Room of Echoes, the God Chest. Some even call it the city's second heart. The idea that wealth this immense could be stored in one place is absurd, unless you're standing in front of it. The door is black basalt, impossibly smooth. The hinges invisible. There's no handle, no seam, just a small impression where a hand might fit. You try it. Warm again. Too warm. You pull back. A faint hum fills the space. Rhythmic, almost breathing. According to one fragmentary tablet found centuries later, this vault held over 5,000 talents of gold. If that math means nothing to you, picture a room where the air glows yellow, where each footstep crunches on coins, where you could build a wall out of rubies and no one would blink. But that's just Vault 1. There are rumors of others beneath the temples, below the ziggurats, even beneath the royal baths. One so large, it was said to have its own weather system, another supposedly protected by a creature made of smoke and teeth. Most were probably exaggerations. Probably, yet the existence of these vaults isn't disputed. Mainstream historians acknowledge that ancient cities like this stored enormous surpluses of wealth tributes, war spoils, trade reserves. In many Mesopotamian sites, actual accounting tablets detail inventories down to the last ox. But this city, its records are either missing or deliberately destroyed. And here's the quirky detail: some archaeologists uncovered a room with decoy treasure. Not fake treasure, cursed treasure. Coins that radiated faint but measurable heat. Statues that shifted position overnight. One ivory box that, when opened, caused 4 researchers to faint. 2 later described the same dream falling through layers of burning honey. Historians still argue whether this was psychological suggestion, low-frequency sound waves, or the result of some now-lost chemical defense system. But everyone agrees this place guarded its secrets, even in decay. You move deeper. The tunnels curve, spiral, dip. Each new chamber holds something more perplexing. A wall of mirrors made from polished obsidian, each cracked in the same corner. A pool of water that never ripples. And finally a vault that's open. You step inside cautiously. No piles of gold, no jeweled scepters, just clay tablets, hundreds, stacked and coated. You brush one clean. The symbols aren't cuneiform, not quite. They spiral instead of row, their meaning elusive. You get a whiff of something papyrus, oil, and ozone, like lightning just kissed parchment. And then a sound, a dry, whispery scrape. You're not alone. A figure steps into the doorway, hooded, tall, unarmed. You can't see their face, but they speak. The king has begun to empty the vaults. They say quietly, "It's too late." You blink, too late for what they tilt their head. For anyone to remember, you're about to ask another question, but they're gone. You rush to the hallway, empty, just stone and smoke. Was it real? Maybe, maybe not, but it tracks. There had been rumors the king, fearing something war, gods. Maybe prophecy had begun to quietly relocate the city's wealth. By the time any threat arrived, the treasury would be gone. Brilliant, right? Unless that act was the very thing that doomed the city. See, people can tolerate a tyrant. They can handle famine, even drought. But when trust dies, when they believe their leader is stealing the future itself, things fall apart. Fast. You make your way back to the surface. The sun is dipping now, throwing the towers in long golden shadows. But the city doesn't sparkle anymore. It looks tired, hollow. Children still play in the dust. Priests still chant. A man hawks fake emeralds shaped like frogs. But you sense it. This city's pulse is faltering. Its second heart, the vaults, has begun to hemorrhage. You stop at a well, splashing your face. The water tastes faintly metallic. Odd. There's a low rumble beneath your feet. You freeze. Then it passes. An aftershock. Someone says, after what you ask. They just laugh, teeth crooked, eyes wary. You'll see. And that's when you realize something that chills you deeper than the subterranean vaults ever did. This place wasn't robbed. It wasn't conquered. It opened itself from the inside out. The vaults weren't breached. They were bled. And someone, maybe the king, maybe something older, made sure that once the city fell, it would take its memory with it. You hear a crack, not from the sky, but from deep below. The kind of crack stone makes when it remembers its dust. The ground shifts ever so slightly. Just a coincidence, probably. But then again, you haven't seen the river yet. You step out of the shadow of the vaults and into the last golden rays of the day. Everything feels a bit louder. The clang of metal, the neigh of horses, the vendors yelling over each other like it's a full contact sport. But listen closer. Underneath the chaos, there's something subtler whispers. Not ghostly ones, though. You wouldn't be surprised at this point. But human ones, nervous, clipped, deliberate, the kind of whispers that cling to the edges of a collapsing empire. You push through the crowd at the marketplace. It's as chaotic as ever. Spices hang in thick clouds, filling your nostrils with cumin, cinnamon, and something so sharp it feels like a sneeze is always moments away. Bread crackles over open fires. A monkey dressed in silver bells scampers across a cart, stealing figs. Everyone acts busy, but they're watching. A merchant with ink-stained fingers grips your arm. His voice is urgent. Don't stay out after the second torch lighting. He warns. People don't come back. You frown, but he's already gone, vanishing into a row of oilcloth tents. You pass a group of foreign traders arguing in Aramaic or maybe Greek. It's hard to tell. This city is a magnet for cultures. Coins here come stamped with everything from winged lions to triple-headed gods. A man in a Roman-style toga haggles next to a woman wearing earrings that scream Nubian royalty. It's beautiful, sure, but it's also combustible. There's a reason historians call this the market of 10 tongues. But you can feel it now, those tongues are sharpening. One rumor spreads, and suddenly everyone's glaring at their neighbors like they're holding matches, and the market's made of straw. One mainstream historical account from a neighboring city, preserved in an unassuming limestone tablet, mentions a time of nervous wealth. A strange phrase, but it fits. Everyone here is still rich. The silks still shimmer. The jewels still blind you in the sunlight. But no one trusts anyone anymore. The king is rumored to have poisoned his own advisors. Merchants vanish, and the price of salt has tripled in a month. That's never a good sign. You overhear a hushed conversation near a pottery stall. They're storing bodies in the grain silos. No, those are just refugees. Refugees from where? A long silence. Then here's your quirky detail. Archaeologists once found a stone tablet in a drainage trench that simply read, "Don't drink the sky." No one has any idea what it means. Some think it was a joke. Others point out that around this time, the rain started turning black. You tilt your face upward now, half expecting something ominous to fall from the sky. It doesn't, just clouds, but they're wrong. Too low, too fast, too thick. They look like smoke, but you don't smell fire. A group of children runs past you, chanting something in a sing-song rhythm. The jackal walks backward. The jackal walks backward. You look around. Adults pretend not to hear. You make your way toward the center of the market, where a wide plaza opens like a stage. Here, a line of officials hands out scrolls. You grab one. It's a new decree. Grain prices will be fixed. The temple will lend food to citizens with approved lineage. Everyone else? There's a line forming. That's the trick. Right. The difference between collapse and inconvenience is often just who you are. And here's where the scholars really get into it. Was this a slow decline, mistaken for a single night collapse? Or was there truly an event so sharp and brutal that the city simply didn't wake up the next morning? Historians still argue whether the overnight part was literal or symbolic. Some say a volcano or massive fire did it. Others blame a ritual gone wrong. A few fringe minds even propose the king tried to rewrite time using sacred geometry and accidentally deleted his own civilization. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. You wander into a narrow side alley, cooler, shaded. A man's cooking something that smells like desperation and chickpeas. He offers you a bite. It's gritty, but kind. He points at your shoes. You're not from here. No, then leave. Tonight, before the river again. You lean in. What about the river? He doesn't blink. It turned black. Then it took the fish. Now it takes voices. You start to laugh, but he's not joking. And then, like a sneeze you didn't know you were holding, a bell rings, once, then twice. That's the second torch lighting. The entire market shifts. Tents drop. Doors slam. A woman yanks her child by the arm so hard he drops his toy. People flee, not running, but hurrying with that same grim focus you see during fire drills. You stand alone in the square now. Even the monkey is gone. And then you hear it. Scritch, scritch, scritch. Soft footsteps, like claws dragging across sandstone. You turn, nothing. You walk. Slowly, another bell rings. But this one isn't official. It's smaller, offbeat, distant. You make it back to the main road just in time to see the guards seal the temple gates. They bar them with spears, their faces pale under bronze helmets. You notice one of them is shaking, badly. He catches your eye, mouths something. You think it's don't listen to them. You shiver. Whatever's coming, it's not a rebellion, not a war. It's something else. You hear those whispers again. This time, they're not from the people. They're rising from the stones, from the walls, from the sky. You want to turn back. You want to sleep. But something inside you already knows. The city is awake, but only just, and tomorrow it won't be. You don't sleep, not because you don't try, you do. You even find a quiet corner beneath an abandoned canopy near the water's edge. But your body refuses. The city's unease has leaked into your bones, humming like a mosquito just outside your ear. Instead, you lie there, watching shadows stretch across the ceiling of cracked linen above you, listening. The normal sounds of night crickets, wind, the odd drunken shout never arrive. Only silence, except wait. There's a rhythm, drip, drip, drip. You roll over, eyes squinting toward the docks. A few torches flicker in the distance, but the boats are gone. Every last one, just tethers left swaying in the water like loose limbs. The river itself looks wrong. You've seen a dozen rivers in your life, and none behave like this one. It doesn't ripple, it pulses, wide, slow, like it's breathing through its gills. You get up. Your sandals slap softly on the damp wood as you edge along the dock. The air smells, how to describe it, fermented, like spoiled figs left too long in the sun. You gag, and then see it a fish, floating belly up, then another, then hundreds. The river is dead. You're not the only one who noticed. A priest stands nearby, robes billowing despite the still air. He's sprinkling something powdered bone, maybe into the water, and muttering words that make your skin crawl. You don't understand the language, but your body does. Your spine arches without permission. The priest turns slowly toward you. They've stopped listening. He says, "Who the gods?" He drops a charred feather into the water. It doesn't float. It vanishes, like it was never there. You turn away, quickly, back on solid ground. You pass murals that seemed beautiful yesterday. Sun gods riding lions, harvest queens with overflowing baskets, but now they feel smug, like they know what's coming. You walk the length of the river into the trade quarter. Remember that hustle and bustle from earlier gone. Shops shuttered, statues wrapped in cloth. Even the beggars have disappeared. It feels like a theater after the final act. When everyone's gone home and the stage waits to be swept, then you hear it. The song, a child's voice, drifting through a side alley, silver boats and golden oars. Take us far from blackened shores. You follow, turning the corner and stop. A small girl sits alone, drawing on the wall with chalk. Her designs are perfect spirals, interlocking patterns like a nautilus shell wrapped in mathematics. They shimmer faintly. You're not imagining it. She looks up, Stott smiles. They're looking for a way out, she says, but the doors won't open. She blinks. The important ones. You're about to press further when a noise rips through the sky. Not thunder, a tearing sound, like the world split open for just a second and changed its mind. Everyone feels it. You hear a scream in the distance, then two, then dozens. You run back to the main plaza, where people are now flooding out of their homes. Some carry bundles, others drag carts. No one speaks. No one cries. They just move. A massive fire has erupted on the hill where the temple once stood. Columns fall in slow motion, each crash like a punctuation mark at the end of a dying language. The smoke doesn't rise. It spills like ink across parchment. Historians still argue whether this was the moment the city truly died, a mass fire consuming the sacred center, possibly ignited by rebel hands, a vengeful priesthood, or something more arcane. Some suggest the temple stored volatile materials, experimental powders gifted by wandering mystics. Others point to fault lines beneath the city, a sudden earthquake igniting centuries of buried rot. But you're watching it happen, and it doesn't look accidental. It looks planned. And then you remember the vaults. You pivot, heading toward the old stone road that curves beneath the marketplace, past the merchant quarters, and toward the royal district. You don't know why. Maybe you think someone's still in charge, that there's still an official plan. But when you arrive at the gates of the palace, they're already open. No guards, no fanfare. Inside, the halls are chaos. Servants push past you, robes streaked with blood not from wounds, but from something else. Ritual paint. Ink. One man's carrying scrolls in his arms like they're children. Another woman clutches a small statue wrapped in linen, sobbing. No one stops you. You move through the halls until you reach the throne room. It's empty. No king, no council, just a chair, and behind it, a giant relief mural cracked from floor to ceiling. It shows a city built on the back of a great beast, scales etched like coins, eyes wide open. Beneath its feet, rivers, temples, vaults. Above its head, stars in a configuration you've never seen. The beast is bleeding. You step closer and see a small panel at the base of the mural. You touch it. It clicks. The wall slides open. Inside is a small chamber, round, lined with metal that hums beneath your fingertips. In the center, a device. It's not gold. It's not ornate. It's precise. Bronze rings, thin glass tubes, and something inside spinning slowly, silently. It's a clock, but not for time. A man in fine robes slumps beside it, eyes open, lifeless. In his hand, a letter. You pull it free. The script is careful, measured, probably written not long ago. It reads, "To whom it may concern, we tried, we stored, we warned, we hid, but the river woke first." Suddenly, the device stops spinning. Everything goes silent. You hear a distant roar, not of fire, not of war, but of water, rushing. You run to the nearest window. The river has risen. It's no longer creeping or pulsing. It's coming. Through alleys, through houses, through walls. Black, glistening, fast. People scream. The palace shakes. You take one last look at the mural, that bleeding beast, and you wonder, was it ever a metaphor? Because it's moving now. You don't remember turning away from the mural or how you made it back outside. One moment you're staring at that impossible carving, and the next, you're on the temple steps, breath hitching, legs burning. The street in front of you is gone, not destroyed, gone. Where once were vendors and dusty carts, now there's only water. It swirls like ink in an overturned bottle, crawling higher, devouring stone and sandalwood alike. And it's not just rising, it's searching. You dash sideways, pressing your back against the hot sandstone wall of a collapsed shrine. A group of people charges past, one woman clutching a cage full of birds. Another drags a child in each hand. They're not headed for higher ground. They're headed for anywhere but here. The river, that black-veined monster, has breached the city's edge. It coils down alleys with purpose, splitting into fingers that squeeze between structures, flooding rooms still lit by lanterns. You spot a bronze statue. An ox-headed god topples slowly, swallowed mid-fall. A boy appears next to you, barefoot and soaked. He's maybe 10, eyes wide, clutching a fragment of something ancient-looking, a clay tablet, no bigger than a plate. They say it's written backwards, he says breathlessly. What is? He holds it up, pointing at the tiny lines etched along the curve. The name of the thing under the river. They say you can't speak it unless the city is gone. You blink. How did you get this? He shrugs. It floated up, like it wanted to leave. And just like that, he bolts down another path, vanishing into the fog that's starting to roll over the rooftops like cold soup steam. You push on. The road ahead angles sharply upward, one of the few hills in the city, and you follow the current of survivors clawing their way up. Their faces are wild with disbelief, not just fear. These aren't villagers. These are jewelers, priests, astronomers, glass blowers. This was a city of sophistication, and yet no wall, no wealth, no cleverness has stopped this. You pass a man on his knees, arms lifted toward the sky. He's chanting in a forgotten tongue, words you've only seen chiseled on crumbling altars. Some nearby believe he's praying, but you hear closer, he's bargaining. And here comes our historical fact for this section, one of the city's last surviving inscriptions, found centuries later on a bit of obsidian reeds. The waters rise not by storm, but by silence. Scholars believe this might be metaphor for political collapse, but now, watching the river crawl up a stone statue's spine like a spider, it doesn't feel metaphorical at all. You make it to the top of the hill. From here, the view is both breathtaking and horrifying. The lower half of the city is submerged. Torches float like fireflies. The palace dome, once the highest point in the skyline, is cracked open like an egg. Water pours from it like blood from a wound. Then someone gasps, not at the city, at the sky. You follow their gaze. Above, clouds have thickened into a perfect spiral. Stars twinkle behind them in constellations that don't belong to us. They flicker like Morse code, like blinking eyes. And at the center of the spiral, something glows. Not a moon, not a sun. Something watching. A scholar nearby drops her scrolls and says simply, "It's awake." Open scholarly debate time. Was the collapse of the city truly natural? A freak flooding event compounded by poor infrastructure? Or was it, as some fringe historians claim, an event of cosmic reckoning? Ancient texts from neighboring lands mention a sky eye and a river that walks. Traditional academics roll their eyes, but others point out that no ordinary flood leaves spiral burn marks in stone. Oh yes, those. You notice them now, too, on walls, on rooftops, even carved into the skin of statues. Spirals everywhere. You close your eyes, just for a second, and you hear it as a deep hum, like a bass note played too slowly to register. It's not sound, it's feeling, like pressure in your teeth, your bones, behind your eyes. You stagger. Someone catches your elbow. It's the chalk drawing girl from earlier. She looks older now, or maybe she always looked this way. "Come with me," she says. You hesitate. She doesn't wait. You follow. She leads you to a ruin at the far end of the hill. Nothing impressive, just a cracked archway and a few toppled columns. But something about the air here feels clean, like it was filtered through ancient moss and forgotten by time. She steps into the ruin. You follow. Inside, everything is circular, a perfect stone chamber with walls covered in handprints, thousands of them, different sizes, different directions, some recent, others impossibly old. In the center, a hole, not large, just enough to fit your arm. Or a head, you ask. What is this? She says. A seed, and before you can stop her, she drops the clay tablet into it. It vanishes. She looks up at you. Everything has a pattern, even endings. You glance back outside. The water is rising faster now, like the city has ceased resisting. So what happens now, you ask? She smiles softly. The spiral closes. You don't know what that means, but your body does. You both sit in silence for a while as the humming deepens, as the spiral in the sky begins to spin, and as you sit there, hand resting lightly on the warm stone floor, you feel something strange. The stone is breathing. You stay seated on the warm stone floor for a while longer, not because you want to, because it won't let you stand. You try. You really do, but your legs feel like sandbags, heavy, anchored. The girl? No. The woman now watches you without blinking. Her face is soft, but there's an oldness to her eyes that makes your skin crawl in the nicest possible way. Above, the spiral churns. No thunder, no lightning, just quiet movement, like a spoon stirring some celestial soup. And far below the hilltop ruin, your once mighty city gurgles beneath black, viscous water. It clings to walls, flows up staircases, and seeps through cracks with a mind all its own. You ask her quietly, so the stones don't overhear, is this really the end? She doesn't answer. Instead, she points to the wall. One of the handprints is glowing, faintly, greenish gold, so like moss caught in sunlight. You reach out, not quite sure why, and match your palm to it. It's cold, then hot, then memory. A vision explodes behind your eyelids, a flash of the city in its early days, before the aqueducts, before the glass towers and mirrored floors, just dirt, tents, firelight, people with thick hands and wild eyes laying stones in perfect circles, and in the center, a deep pit, too symmetrical to be natural. They don't build over it, they build around it. You snap back, gasping. She's still watching. They tried to hide it. She says, by naming it sacred, and just like that, we've arrived at this section's historical fact. Many ancient cities did exactly that, built over anomalies, geological oddities, magnetic fields, deep water reservoirs, sometimes for practical reasons, but sometimes to seal something in. There's archaeological evidence from sites across the ancient world Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, even parts of early Peru, where entire cities were engineered around natural voids or bottomless wells. Most were dismissed as myth, others were marked forbidden. The city you're in, it chose worship over warnings. Back in the chamber, more handprints begin to glow like a slow wave of remembering. You rise. Finally, your legs still shake, but the spell is broken. The woman nods. You should go now. You hesitate. But what about you? She touches the edge of the stone hole, the seed. She called it, and her hand disappears through it, like dipping into thick water. I never left, which is a completely reasonable answer. If you're willing to ignore logic, you leave her there, walking slowly out into the golden haze of a sun that no longer seems interested in setting. Everything has taken on a tangerine glow, soft and dreamlike. You notice the birds again, dozens of them circling in silence, except they're not birds. They're pages, old papyrus, charred at the edges, fluttering on invisible wind currents. They don't land, they search. You make your way back down the hill, not because you want to, but because the city calls you. You pass once grand streets, now strewn with artifacts, a child's sandal, a bronze mirror, a stone tablet snapped perfectly in half, and everywhere those spirals, scratched into walls, carved into doors, painted on ceilings with no ladders in sight. The debate among historians goes on. Were these spiral motifs part of some advanced early mathematics, a representation of sacred geometry? Or were they warnings left behind by those who knew what slept beneath the city's roots? Fringe theory time. Some modern fringe scholars argue these spirals match certain ancient galactic maps, constellations distorted to reflect a falling star, a cosmic body not bound by regular space-time. It's pure sci-fi to most, but here, among the drowned ruins, you're not so sure. The water is higher now, waist deep in some alleys, roof level in others. But the current has calmed, no more violent swells. It's as if the river has eaten its fill, and then you see it, a gathering, near the Grand Plaza, beneath what remains of a shattered obelisk. A crowd stands in silence, necks craned upward. You join them. Everyone is looking at the sky. The spiral has slowed, and now something emerges from it. At first, it looks like a speck, then a star, then a shape long, geometric, shimmering like oiled leather. It doesn't descend. It settles, like it's already been here, like it's just now revealing itself. Someone next to you whispers, "The Ark." Another person replies, "No, it's the seed unfolding." You ask, "What is it?" No one answers. A child in the crowd takes a step forward, hands cupped. He kneels, opens them, and reveals a single spiral shell like a tiny nautilus, but made of stone, not carved, grown. He places it on the flooded steps. The shell opens, light pours from it, a door appears in the air, like it was always there just waiting to be unlocked. You and the others stare, and that's the cliffhanger, isn't it? Because now the real question isn't why the city collapsed. It's what lies on the other side of that door. Some walk forward, some kneel, some run the other direction. You step closer, not because you're ready, but because you have to know. The air around the doorway hums. It smells like ozone and old rain. Your skin tingles. Somewhere behind you, the Chug girl hums that song again. Silver boats and golden oars take us far from blackened shores. And as your hand reaches for the light, the spiral begins to turn backwards. Your hand pauses just shy of the glowing edge. It isn't hesitation. Not really. It's instinct, because something about the light feels too smooth, like the surface of water that doesn't reflect. It has no temperature, no depth. It's like trying to touch a thought, and yet your fingers tingle as though you've already passed through. You glance back. The city has gone silent. Not the peaceful kind, the final kind. No more shouts, no birds, no clattering pots or sloshing water. Just the gentle swirl of flood and that unsettling backward spin in the sky. The spiral above now turns counterclockwise, and for the first time, you understand the sick logic of it. It isn't just unwinding time, it's unwriting it. That's why everything's quiet, because it's being unremembered. You look around and realize the crowd is thinner, much thinner. The people you walked with just moments ago gone, or maybe not gone. Exactly, just erased. Only a few of you remain now. A woman with salt-streaked robes, a hunched man cradling a clay urn, the chalk-drawing girl again, though she looks much younger now. Her eyes are wide, curious, like she's never been here before. She blinks up at the spiral and whispers, "What's that?" You feel something sink in your stomach. She doesn't remember, neither do the others. They look dazed, confused, like tourists waking up in someone else's dream. But you remember, for now, and that makes you dangerous. Mainstream historical fact, time scholars agree. The city known in ancient texts as something resembling Kowloon vanished without a trace around 1200 BCE. No survivors, no skeletal remains, just scattered artifacts and inexplicably preserved staircases leading to nothing. Some believe it was wiped out by a combination of war, famine, and flood. Others say it was erased intentionally, its name struck from records, its maps burned. But here you are, watching it vanish again, not with fire, not with flood, with forgetting. A man beside you mutters, "We were the brightest flame." He crumbles into sand. You don't run. You walk toward the door. Every step is a memory tightening around your lungs. That summer, the sky turned orange for a week, the day the river changed direction, and nobody knew why. That moment, years ago, when the High Oracle looked directly at you and said, "You'll be the last to know." You didn't understand then. You do now. A small voice trails behind you. "Where are you going?" the chalk girl asks. You turn to her, and there's a beat of unbearable tenderness, because her hair is wet with rainwater, and her knees are scraped, and she has no idea that she's existed across 1,000 iterations of this city's death spiral, over and over, always watching, always drawing. But this version, she's just a child. So you smile and lie. Home. Then you step through the door. No flash, no boom, just warmth and color, and so much color. Blues that smell like cinnamon, golds that whisper names in your ear. You float forward, not walking now, passing through layers of a city beneath the city. Not ruins, not basements. Something older, something alive. Stone pulses here like muscle. Roots twist into patterns you swear you've seen before. Chalk spirals, spiral shells, spiral skies. And in the center of this place, impossibly far, and yet somehow close, something is waiting. A shape, coiled, asleep, or maybe pretending. You hover near it. This embryonic mass of shifting geometry. It's not a creature. It's not a god. It's a question, one you were never meant to ask. But here it is anyway. Fringe theory time in 1978. An amateur linguist named Bernard Weiss claimed that every extinct language contains at least one untranslatable word that refers to the forgotten sibling. He believed civilizations periodically birthed entities, accidents of language and belief that became aware through repetition. Say a thing too many times, and it starts to become the city above it said the spiral's name too often. Now it remembers itself. You get closer. It sees you, not with eyes, with recognition. It knows you've survived this long, that you've watched the city drown and undrown, burn and unburn. And it does something unexpected. It shows you a choice. You can step back through the door, be unmade like the others. No pain, no memory, just sleep. Or you can stay, not alive, not dead, just present, a permanent witness, an echo woven into the stone and spirals. To remember what no one else can. You reach toward it, and someone grabs your wrist. You blink, back in the flood. The plaza, the door is gone, the spiral is gone, the sky is clear, the city is empty, except for her, the chalk girl, older again, eyes tired. You almost stayed. She says, you nod. So did I once. She adds, but someone has to remember the before, or else this happens again. And then she presses something into your hand, a single chalk spiral. Draw it somewhere, she says, just once. You open your hand, and the spiral begins to glow. You close your hand around the chalk spiral, but it's not chalk anymore. It's heavier, smoother, cool like river stone, but it pulses faintly in your palm, as though something inside it is still breathing. The girl is already gone. No sound of footsteps. No splash in the ankle-deep water. Just the ghost of her voice, echoing just once. So you walk through what's left of the city, if you can even call it that anymore. The streets are less flooded now and more undone. Buildings fold in on themselves like pages in a burned book. Doorways open to flat stone. Windows peer into fog. The marketplace is gone. So is the temple, but the statues remain, frozen, half-melted faces turned toward the spiral that's no longer in the sky. Some look angry, some look relieved. You recognize none of them, but they know you. You trudge past them, past the mud-slick pillars and the whispering vines that now sprout from every crack, until you find the perfect wall, still standing, just one slab of smooth white stone, untouched by the chaos, like it's been waiting. And you do what she asked. You draw it, one slow spiral. The moment your chalk stone touches the wall, it burns, not in heat, but in memory. You remember the first spiral you ever drew on your bedroom floor after that first strange dream, on the edge of your school book, in the sand during festival season, spirals in soup, spirals in your thoughts. They've followed you forever, and now they return home. The stone absorbs your mark. It glows, then vanishes. You half expect trumpets or thunder, or a final gust of magical wind. Nope, it's just stillness, but not silence, because now the city hums, not loud, barely audible, like a lullaby hummed through ancient stone. And if you press your hand to the wall, you feel it, the pulse of something underneath. It's not over, it's paused. For now, you look up. The sky is clean, no spiral, just clouds, drifting in lazy spirals of their own. You take a deep breath, and yes, there it is. The scent of saffron, of old papyrus and burned cedar, of memory. Historians still argue whether the collapse of cities like Kowloon was a fluke of nature or a punishment of the gods. Some suggest environmental collapse. Some point to warfare, but a small group, quiet, ridiculed, persistent whispers of recursion, that some cities are built not on stone and law, but on loops, and when they reach the end of their memory cycle, they collapse not from weakness, but from overwriting. You've seen it now. You've survived it. You're not sure why you were chosen. Maybe because you always paid attention, Maybe because you believed in bedtime stories. Maybe because someone had to walk away and remember. But you know what comes next. You find a dry patch of earth just beyond the plaza, where the sunlight drips like honey. You sit, you let your legs rest, your fingers still buzz, phantom spirals tracing the air. And then you begin to speak, softly, rhythmically. The story pours from you like warm milk about a city so rich, so full of power and pride, that it forgot the oldest rule. Don't wake what you can't understand. You tell of rivers reversing, skies spiraling, children with chalk and strangers with vanished names. You tell it the way it happened backwards, then forwards again, with too many details, with not enough, and eventually, someone hears, not a person, a shadow. It settles beside you, quiet, familiar. You don't stop telling the story, because if you do, it starts again, and this time, you want it to end with remembering. So now, you let your breath slow. Let the dust settle on your skin like fine silk, and let the warmth of this vanished sun cradle you. The city sleeps again, not destroyed, not forgotten, but resting in a quiet layer just beneath the world you know. If you listen closely, beyond the sound of your fan or the occasional car outside, you might hear that hum, the same one that echoed through the plaza, that wrapped around your heart like a secret too big to hold. It's soft now. It's safe. No spirals tonight. Only circles. Gentler ones. A cup in your hands. The curl of your cat on your bed. The moon's path across your ceiling. Remember, it's okay not to understand everything. Some stories exist simply to be told, again and again, until their edges soften and their teeth turn into lullabies. And you were the listener tonight, the witness, the one who stayed. So let that story rock you gently now, back and forth until your eyes close and the door in your mind swings shut. Not with a bang, but with the hush of sleep. Tomorrow the city will still be there, somewhere. But for now, you've done your part. The spiral rests. The story is over. See you tomorrow night. Sweet dreams.